out some different things. Well, you don't know that. Let me just start with I did record an episode video upload yesterday. Look at me, I'm like sassy already. Well, first of all, I'm back. I want to angle myself to where I don't know if she cares, but my roommate has pictures of her daughter in our room, and I'm sure she would not care that they were in the background, but you never know. So just out of respect, I'm going to be considerate of that. So welcome back to my channel. I tried yesterday I recorded from my phone a video, but with no, I just put my phone down upside down and hey, put my phone upside down so it would just be audio. And then I went back and I had a logo that I had made, like like for my channel, just like a logo. And I went back and it took me like 3 hours to get it to where I could do the logo on the screen and the video audio playing through. And then it took like 3 hours to upload from the app to the phone, and then from the phone to YouTube. And by that point, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to make it public because it sounded really terrible. The audio was terrible. I couldn't figure out what it was. I figured out it was because the AC in my room was loud. And so I'm not saying it wasn't good material, but I'm just trial and erroring this thing because it's just really, there's so many variables and there's so much unknown and uncertainty, and just me kind of blindly navigating through. I wouldn't say blindly because, I'm really just trying to do this if it's in God's will and for that reason. And I feel like it's pretty clear. I feel like I personally can have, it's not difficult to see whether or not I'm, operating within God's will. Because I know that there's something that he wants me to do. I know that I have a calling. I know that I have a purpose. I know that I have gifts that he has, how he created me uniquely for a purpose. And it's, I can't wait to find out what that is. I'm not sure that's what this is. I don't know. And honestly, I was thinking about this today. I don't even know how I would know if that's what it was, if having this channel and connecting with others, sharing my experience, strength, and hope through addiction recovery and, walking with God and learning, navigating, deepening my relationship with him, all that entails, the combination of the two, primarily walking with God, but as a secondary, but, not, but still important aspect, which is my, continuing in sobriety and sober living and recovery and all that. I think that I'm learning is kind of an offset of, the main thing, which is living my life for him, walking in accordance to his will, serving him, being, that's number one, but with that being said, like, is this channel, is that, I don't know yet what God wants from me as far as, I'm not sure. I love to sing, but I can promise you, that singing is not my calling. It comes easy to me, I love to do it. Feels great. But I'm very, very much aware that it's not my calling. I love to, it's worship, and that's important. And anytime that we do that, anytime we praise and worship the Lord, it definitely is, he loves that. And I love that. So it definitely has its purpose, but its purpose is not for me to bring others to the Lord. I feel pretty strongly about that. Now, as far as this channel, I don't know. And like I said, I don't know how I would even, how would I even know at this point? Because I've said all along, I'm not doing it for, as a popularity thing or a monetary, for monetary purposes, for, ego boosting or, just like, that's not my goal, clearly. But if I were to try to, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, if I were to look at the channel as a whole and say, okay, do I think that this is what God wants me to do? Do I think that this is part of my calling, how God's going to use me, hopefully, to bring people to him, how would I know that? Numbers, people's feedback, the way it makes me feel, the excitement that I get and the pleasure that I get from doing it, the, amount of excitement or ease or, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe if I don't know words, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe this isn't my calling. Resistance. That's the word I was looking for. Maybe, the amount of resistance I have to it. Because I said a while back, I said, the resistance that I have to this channel, to these live streams, is definitely all the way related to the vanity aspect of it. I don't want to be someone who puts a lot of stock, or really any at all, into my physical appearance. And I feel like it's very easy to fall into that, doing something like this, anything involving social media, or, the spotlight being on you in any way, or the possibility of that, the attention of others, your personal image on the, on the outside versus on the inside, all those things. I feel like it's a very, very easy trap to fall into, and so I wanted to not do that. So that was my purpose yesterday in just doing the audio. But I did feel like too, like, how many times have I said, since we've started this live stream? I don't know. I wasn't counting, but I don't think that it would be quite as distracting or as obvious when I'm talking and doing things that I do versus when all you have is my audio. I just felt like when I listened back to the upload that I had yesterday, I kept hearing and at one point I was even like, can I stop saying But these are all things that come with time and practice, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that if that's what God's called me to do. But ultimately, and just that's what it's for. It's for me, for God, but also, and as an offshoot of that, like, to reach others in any type of significant, positive, positive way. I know I've said this before. By the way, I love this Red Bull. I've been going back and forth between the spring and the summer. This is the coconut edition. I've been going back and forth between the spring and the summer. I thought that I loved the spring edition, but the summer edition that came out with the white peach, so good. So good. But I have been doing a lot better as far as like my caffeine intake. I feel like that's something that I've really, it's just, I love it. I love Red Bull and I love coffee, but it's definitely not something that's like, I'm not overdoing it as much as I was, and I'm not depending on it as much as I was. And I think now it's more than anything, it's kind of like coffee to me at this point is kind of just a part of my morning routine. And I enjoy it. It's a part that I enjoy. Another thing that I've been doing that I want to encourage everybody, and this is something that I wrestle with in my mind all the time, because I know full well and I understand completely why Jesus says the things that we do for God, we are to do in private, not to let the right hand know what the left hand does as far as giving. When you pray in private with your door closed, not in the streets like the pagans do. They do it for the theatrics of it or whatever. They fast and they have this somber look on them. This, they everybody knows that they're hungry and that they're fasting, and it's all for the wrong reasons. And I definitely get that. And it kind of all goes back to what I was saying before about how easy it is to fall into those traps of, fleshly gain and, outer appearances and image and things like that. And I know that that's something that definitely people back then, the Pharisees, the pagans, those people, those people, definitely struggle with, but I think it's something that we do today as well. There's just not as, in my opinion, there's not as clear of a dividing line between hypocrites, Pharisees, pagans, Romans, I don't know, and followers of Christ. There's a lot of in between. There's a lot of, but ultimately that is what it comes down to. So with that being said, though, I try to find the balance between, I don't want to not share, because part of this channel is to kind of share my journey, through, like I said, recovery and my relationship with God and growing and, in my growing in Him, and all that entails. So, it's like, I guess I can say this, like, to put it into perspective, I have a therapist that I see every week, and I just love and appreciate and value her so much, and I'm forever grateful for the person that she's been in my life, and I just think the world of her, and I'm so glad that I chose to go with someone that I did not feel like I could easily, I don't want to say control, but if I'm being completely honest, and I am going to get back to where I was going with this, I'm going to try to stay on topic, but, I think it's worth mentioning that for me, that is an area that I'm very, very susceptible to falling into, like, I guess I would say, as far as like my character defects, I really have a tendency to be a know-it-all. I really can easily start putting a lot of stock or value into knowledge and information and, intelligence, if you will. And again, that's a very slippery slope. That's not what growth as a human, growth as a person, growth in your walk with God, that's not at all what's important. Jesus says that if you want to enter the gates of heaven, you should be like these little children, and I think that that's part of what he means in that, is that, you really don't have to have all this, this knowledge is useful unless it's paired with the Holy Spirit and the wisdom that comes from experience and walking with God, and the love that he joins with that knowledge. Those two things, are all those things put together, make a beautiful thing. But knowledge in itself is something that I very easily tend to use for an ego boost. And especially when it comes to, but anyway, I don't want to get too off task, but what I'm saying though is that seeing a psychiatrist or seeing a therapist was something that I was very aware of, how easy I could use that as a way not to, get help, seek counseling from someone who has more knowledge than me, or, can kind of see the parts of me that I'm not able to see. I just didn't want it to be something that I could easily, just boost my ego, like, oh, I know more than them. I'm not saying that I would say that. I just knew that it would be very easy for me to, especially there's certain genders, there's certain personality types, there's certain archetypes that I know myself, I could very easily, whether in real life or in my mind, I could easily use that as something to just boost my ego, rather than really take it, use it for what it is. And that's, just another tool in the toolbox of growing as a person, healing, becoming more whole and integrated and all those things. So it does help that she does know the Lord. I love that for sure. But also, she is someone who has enough in common with me that we understand each other, but also, we have enough differences that, it's just a beautiful combination. And I'm very grateful for her. But what I was going to say that I don't remember, but I'm going to remember in just a second. What were we talking about? I was talking about, oh, I know what it was. I knew I was going to remember. I just had to take a sip of my Red Bull. So, and just a side note before I get too in depth with like the serious stuff, I really think it's funny that I I'm not going to try to put a lot of really much effort at all into my physical appearance, you know, but I do think it's funny that when I was getting dressed, I was like, well, I don't want to wear this flower top because it's like really cute and like girly and flowery, and I don't want to wear it with like a camo hat because like, that's not even, and I was like, but that's kind of me, and it really is perfect. And it was just second nature to me to put on a flower top with a camo hat. So anyway, I am who I am. So she did say to me one time, you know, she said, I have clients all the time that will tell me, I don't want to brag about something when they, and it's great that, you know, a lot of people, obviously there are people in the world that still practice humility. And there's nothing wrong with being humble and being aware of that. But she was like, you know, I'm your therapist. I want to celebrate with you. I want to, be able to celebrate your achievements and your triumphs and your, you know, those things. And even if it is bragging, like I'm the one that you need to brag to, you know, it probably gives her a lot of pleasure to, you know, to hear these things. I mean, I'm sure she wants to know that, you know, we're doing things in life that, you know, are, you know, positive things or, you know, whatever. So I say that to say, you know, I'm trying to take that into consideration. I don't think that I'm somebody that's going to just become super arrogant or super like all about appearances, like I like, you know, do all these good things for people, but really it's just to, you know, to look a certain way. I just don't think that that's something that I really, it's possible because I'm human, but it's just something that I've never really struggled with. It's never really been one of my you know, something that is just a tendency of mine, you know, to easily fall into that. So that was like the longest way possible to get all the way around to what I was going to say. And that's this. I have actually, like, I don't even know why I said that because I'm going too fast. And it's not because of the Red Bull. It's just because of my head knocking. I miss y'all. So, okay, let me start over. So I have really worked on, my prayer life has been, it's, you know, I have one now. I'm going to just say it like that. It's probably not something that I'm proud of, but for a long time, you know, I did the things that were easy to me. And again, it goes back to like God's will and his desire for our lives, you know, we should, you know, when we're in accordance with, like when we're walking in God's will, when we're carrying out his purpose for our lives, you know, we should have a certain sense of ease to us. You know, it should bring us pleasure to do the things that please the Lord, you know. But when it comes to just our relationship with him, just as it is with a relationship with any person, whether it be at a job or, you know, in like a romantic, you know, in that way, or a friendship, any type of relationship where two people are expected to invest their resources, time, energy, you know, these things, much like any type of relationship like that, you know, it's not about just doing the things that are easy to do, in my opinion. Now, granted, all of this is strictly my opinion. If you will know that if I'm saying something that I consider factual, because I will probably have glasses on and a notebook out, and I will be saying it probably just as matter-of-factly as I'm talking right now, but I won't be saying in my opinion. I'll be clearly saying that these are facts from, you know, either God's word or Google, you know, but I definitely am not gonna, you know, claim that everything that I'm saying right now, I mean, it definitely is just my opinion. Now, it might be backed by some facts, but it's just gonna be my, you know, my take on it. So, I don't think that to me personally, it's not about the effort as much as it's about the like intention behind it. And what I mean by that is like, it's a lot easier for a person to do anything when it's their choice, when it's their idea, you know. But something that I feel like has been very common that I've seen throughout my entire life, that I've always just kind of noticed, is that there's a difference in someone doing something out of the kindness of their heart, which a lot of times, let's just be honest, they're not. A lot of times people making kind gestures or acts of love or, you know, giving, or whatever the case may be, like all those things, a lot of times are not based on just the kindness of their heart anyway. There usually is some type of personal motive wrapped up in there. You wrapped up with it, you know, maybe small, maybe whatever. But doing it because it's their idea and they want to, versus doing it because it's expected of them or asked of them or someone else's idea. There's just something about the human brain that just, it's like, it shouldn't be that big of a difference, but it is, you know? And I don't think that that's, you know, completely negates the act altogether. You know, I mean, if you do something nice for another person, regardless of what your motive is, you're still doing something nice for them. I guess the main thing is like, what is attached to that? If there's an expectation or, again, selfish gain, that's, you know, any of those things, they can lead to not so good outcomes. But with God, you know, it's one of those things where, I'm going to say it like this. There's been a few different times in my life, but one that I can think of very, very specifically. A situation where a person that was very close to me would come home every day and tell me how much he talked about me to everybody all day long. I talk about you all the time. I tell everybody how amazing you are and how much I love you. And, you know, these women were hitting on me and I just told them I have a wife and she's amazing. You know, I'm being very vague and candid here, clearly. But there was something about that always just kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, to be honest. And I think, I know it's because of this. Even though I can probably guess the reasonings behind it, you know, the fact is, how much does it really matter what you say about me? All the good things that you say, or the opinion that you have of me, or you know, how much you share with other people about how you feel about me. How much does that really matter at the end of the day? Like, when I'm with you, it's that, to me, that's should be the most important thing, or one of the most important things. It definitely should not be completely overshadowed by, oh, well, you know, I know how he feels about me because he tells me that he talks about people to me all the time. My dad was another person that I can remember always growing up. You know, all of my dad's friends, which my dad had a lot of really good friends. He had a lot of friends. He had a big social circle, and he had a lot of really close friends. And I cannot tell you how many times I had people tell me, Lindsay, you know your dad loves you very much. You know you mean so much to your dad. Your dad loves you so much. Your dad loves you so much. Your dad loves you so much. They said it more times than that. It was more different people. So it was like, your dad loves you so much. Your dad loves you. Your dad loves you so much. It's not that funny. It's really not. It's not funny that he loves me, because I think he really does in his own way. It's so cute. I just always wondered why he needed his friends to tell me that he loved me. Why did they feel like they needed to tell me that? It's not funny. It's not. It's not. Hold on a minute. Just sip of my Red Bull. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I've been making jewelry lately. Jewelry. I got a bunch of them. Sometimes I wear them like all of ours. Okay. The point that I was, the point that I'm going to make, I'm going to get there, is I don't know God's heart. I don't know everything that he feels, or his, you know, opinion on everything. I do ask him all the time, and I do love that he sheds light on that, and he's willing to share that with me at appropriate times and on appropriate topics. But I feel like God would probably agree that it's not just the amount of time we spend talking about him, or, you know, I don't want to say reading about him, because I do think that God's word and being in his word, reading, you know, spending time in his word, I think that that's huge as far as your walk with God. Absolutely. but it doesn't take the place of being in his presence, spending time alone with him. This is also something that I used to do, and I'm just kind of just laying it all out there. I'm not like, oh, let me tell my biggest, darkest secrets. But I'm just kind of telling you, this is part of where I was then and where I am now. And this is, you know, the journey, you know. I think about him a lot, and I actively am talking to him, thinking about him, you know, all those things. And I used to feel like that was something, and I'm not saying that it's not, but that's not praying. In my opinion, that's not praying. That's not time devoted just to being alone with God. Why do I think that? Well, again, this is based purely on my opinion, but I know that I cannot tell you, and I think that maybe it's something that's really prevalent in recovery, but I think it's something that is just, it's so common these days. In this ADHD, ADD culture that we live in, you know, where everything's like, you know, our attention span, our focus is like, I want to say like less than a goldfish, you know, and that's sad. But what was I just saying? I'm just kidding. But I know for me personally, there's been so many times that I've been listening to another person speak, whether that be in treatment, in therapy, in church, in a one-on-one setting with a friend, or, you know, just another human being, in an AA meeting, on a YouTube video. And I was so deeply captivated by what they were saying, what the person was saying, that even if I was doing something else, I'm looking at the clock because I have to be at work at 4 o'clock, but it's fine. Even if I was doing something else, like maybe I, you know, went into it, I just like, even just like watching The Chosen, which is what I'm doing these days, just side note. You know, I may go into the living room with my whole, you know, box of pens and notebooks or my jewelry making stuff, and it might take me 30 minutes to get everything set up. But as soon as that show captivates me, and it will, and it does, I stopped doing whatever else it was that I was doing, because it's grabbed my full attention, you know. So I understand, I completely understand this ADHD culture that we live in, where it's like, I gotta be doing something while I'm listening to you. But I think that we're really selling ourselves short here, and I think we're really doing other people a disservice in that, because and I think that I don't know, but I feel like God might feel the same way, because I feel like at the very fundamental level, you are talking, and I say the very fundamental, I mean, this is just the you know, what it comes down to is this: you are spending time in the presence of the one and only true, almighty, perfect, righteous, sovereign, almighty, all-knowing, all love-encompassing, glorious, magnificent, Alpha and Omega, beginning, you're just all those things. You are spending time in his presence, and you're doing it in a way that you couldn't even. Let me just, because I don't want to get, I'm just like, this is how I feel right now. How many people right now, how many churches, okay, everybody out there, and everybody all the churches that you know, all the doctor's offices, let's just go, like, you know, because, you know, at the end of the day, Jesus is the ultimate physician. He is the ultimate healer. He is the primary, highest, most classified, most decorated, you know, title holding, PhD, letters at the end of his name. Like, he is all that. Like, when it comes to being the physician, the doctor, the healer, the chiropractor, the what's it called, the Reiki healer, you know, all those things. He is the ultimate, you know, just that's what he is, you know. So what if I wanted to talk to a doctor right now? Like, what if I felt bad right now, or had an ailment, or just a question? Let's just say I had a question about like basic human anatomy, or, you know, like I have like a spot on my cheek that I'm like, I don't know if this is skin cancer, or whatever, just whatever it is, you know. How many people could just call a doctor up right now and run it by them, or ask them the question, or go see them and walk back and talk to them, you know, like then and there, no appointment, no, don't stop at the, you know, the receptionist, like don't, you know, I mean, just like, you know, don't even park in a parking spot, just pull right on up there, you know, just like walk in there, like it's no big deal, talk to a doctor, you know, get the answer, get it taken care of. Like, okay, like how many people could go to a store and even talk to the manager, you know? Like there's a whole thing on the internet, but there's a whole name that's devoted to the ridicule of people who think that they are entitled to speaking to a manager. And also like something about their haircut, which I don't really understand. I think that's kind of mean. But you know, anyway, how many people could go talk to their accountant whenever they want, or their mechanic, you know, or their pastor, or the youth minister, or the president, or the governor, or the senator, or the sheriff, or, you know, anyone that holds any type of position higher than you in this world, or in your town, or in your country, you know? And I feel like you get where I'm going with this. Like, how much access do we have to those people? So to think that we have access to someone so much more superior and supreme and amazing and better and smarter and more qualified and more knowledgeable and more experienced and more wise and all those things than all those other people put together. To think that we have access to him anytime, day or night, 24/7, 365, no matter what. Why would you not just put down your phone or your fidget spinner or your, you know, the TV, or, you know, like, why would we not give him, at least just give him that, you know? I mean, it's crazy to think about it like that, but I mean, why do we not think about it like that? Well, I know it's not because he's just like a revolving door and anybody can go talk to him at any time. And it's just, it by no way should it represent the power and respect, you know, because a lot of times these people that are like, oh yeah, like I'm the principal, but like you could come talk to me anytime, like I know I'm your boss, but like we could go have drinks after work, like I'm cool, I'm your friend. Like those people don't respect themselves, and they're not gonna expect you to respect them, and they're not gonna respect you either, because that's how that works. And I'm just telling you that, like I'm saying that it's a matter of opinion, but you can pretty much take that to the bank. Trust me. But it's not a reflection of his worth. In fact, it shouldn't be possible for us to be able to speak to him at all under these circumstances, being a low-life, measly, despicable, sin-ridden human that we are. I just made up a word, I know. It's fine. Only God can do that, but I just did, but whatever. Only he can do it and get away with it. He is the Word. So, the only reason that we can go to him directly is because Jesus Christ and the ultimate and excruciating and very, very costly price that he paid in order for us to not have to go through a gatekeeper or make an appointment or go to a priest or have a certain title or all fit all these requirements or whatever, or be like a certain race or gender or anything like that. In order for us to be able to go directly to him, it did not come at a cheap price, and it definitely wasn't always the case. So it really would be a shame for us to take that for granted, because man, we would be up a creek if we really needed to talk to him and that wasn't the case anymore. If we took that for granted and we thought that we could just always go to him whenever we needed him and just, like I was saying the other day, something that, there's a lot of things that there's a lot of times in my life where I'm like, okay, I was kind of a hypocrite, or I kind of was like, I said something, but then turned around and like did something similar, and I can usually admit my fault, but there are a few things that I am just a flat out hypocrite, just all the way, just like, there's just, I don't even know another word for it. That's just what it is. One of those is I cannot stand it when people scream from room to room in a house. It drives me absolutely crazy. It drives me berserk. It really does. And I do it all the time. I do it all the time. And it makes me so mad. And it makes me even more mad because I get so mad when other people do it. And so when I do it, I get even more mad because I'm doing it. And then I know that I'm a hypocrite and that makes me mad. But I'll even do it if somebody does it to me first. If somebody yells at me from across the house, I'll yell back at them and then be mad at both of us. And then, God forbid, they don't hear what I said. Then I'm really like, oh my gosh, like, how do you know? Like, I'll repeat it like 5 times and get louder and louder. And I'm like, no, this is so crazy. So I am like a total hypocrite when it comes to that. But I was saying the other day, because that is something that I'm working on. I just think that it's, I'm not getting off track, but like thinking about these scenarios makes me think of other scenarios. It's kind of like, a metaphor for my metaphor, like an explanation for what I was using to explain something else, but it's fine. But so the other day, Danny and I were in the Dollar Tree and we got separated, and long story short, I got very irritated because I was looking for her for a long time, and I was like, how is it possible that, but anyway, he was like, well, why didn't you just say Marco like you always do when we lose each other in the grocery store or something? And I was like, well, if you really want me to answer that, it's because I stopped doing drugs and stopped behaving like somebody that goes out in public on drugs. It's not funny. It's really not funny, but it's true. He was like surprised that I wasn't behaving the same way that I was behaving before when I was, you know what I mean? Like, that was why. And I don't like to admit that. I don't like to admit that, but I'm not going to deny that. I can still be the free-spirited, outgoing, energetic, high energy person that I was then, for sure. I don't say I can. I am. That's definitely my personality. I had a feeling that it was, but I've been in so many different, never in my life have I really ever been just fully me without the influence of other people or other substances or, those things that always were factors. So I always kind of thought that I was the person that I am now, but I didn't know for sure. But it's just one of those things where it makes me feel better. It's not just I was doing these things that I shouldn't do and now I'm not, but also this is the way that I was behaving. And it probably had something to do with the fact that, number one, I really didn't care what people thought, because that's one of the side effects, of being under the influence of, substances, mind-altering substances, and not just that, but when you live your life in a way, or you behave in a way that makes you feel shameful or makes you feel less than or inadequate, like when you are not a functioning member of society, it's perfectly reasonable to think that when you go out into public, you're going to behave in a way that's not conducive to, the normal public, so it was a combination of all those things. So, I say all that to say, going back to my original point, which was to make my original point, you know, it's something that I'm working on, because I just don't think it's really something that we should get in the habit of like just screaming at each other through the house. I mean, it's not a sin. It's not bad or anything. It's just it's just something that I try to practice, like that I try to avoid these days. You know what I mean? Especially with so many people, because we do have a lot of people in the house right now, which is a whole different topic that I don't want to really dive into today, because I do have work, and I really have work soon. Ugh. I guess I'm live, so I better not say how much I hate my job. No, I'm just kidding. I really don't. I really do love my job. I really, really do love my job so much. Maybe I should go put on my work clothes and come back on and chat with you guys, because I do love my job so much. And people were like, well, you're so happy. I'm like, well, because I love my job and I love my life, Why wouldn't I be? And that's true, and I really am. And especially days like yesterday. Let me not get sidetracked. Let me just get like running back in. So, when I walk into a room and just barge in, guns a-blazing, yelling, talking, not yelling like, rah, but just like, hey, la, 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 la. You know what I mean? It's like, to me, that's not a part of my personality. That's just a part of being, like I said, just trying to practice being a more, I don't want to say sophisticated, but, just like mature person. But so my point in saying that was that, I think about how we go to the throne of God, how we enter his presence, specifically in prayer. I think it's amazing, and I'm so grateful that we have a God that we can go to anytime in prayer, that we don't need a mediator, we don't need a priest, we don't need the blood of, an animal sacrifice. Like, we don't need to be, checked at the door in any way. We can come to him as we are. He wants us to. I think that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think that is something that I don't know anybody else who can say that about the Lord that they worship, or the God that they serve, or, the person that they look to for salvation, or anything like that. I'm very, very thankful that we serve a God that meets us where we are, and that accepts us as we are, but also one that is more righteous and holy and sovereign than anything or anyone else in this entire universe. Praise God. But so when I go to him, although I am thankful for that, and although I am thankful that I can go to him just as I am, why would I not approach him with the utmost respect? Not just in spite of, but because of that. Because he doesn't demand that respect. He doesn't demand that, there is no chain of command, if you will. The respect that we give him, and the reverence, and, honor and glory, and those aren't the right words. I'm just kind of spouting off Bible words now. Oh, the good thing is, when people say they're brutally honest, they usually mean relating to other people. The good thing is, I am brutally honest about myself. I can usually laugh about it, but it's usually because I try to say it about things that are trivial, in hopes that it won't get to the point that I have to be honest about the things that are like heavier and harder to, swallow. But it's true. I was just spouting off words that I've heard other people say in prayer and in the Bible and stuff. But in reality, like, what I'm really trying to say, like, my true words that I'm using are, he doesn't demand that of us. He doesn't demand respect of us. He doesn't require us to go to him in any certain manner. So to me, I want to be even more aware of that because of that, you know. So something that I say all the time is like one of my like most overused phrases, but you know, like sliding in sideways, you know, like Kramer off Seinfeld, you know, like by all means, God wants to talk to us. He wants to be there for us and hear from us and spend time with us, you know, and he loves that. So if that's what he can get, like, he's fine with that, you know. And some of us, that's just who we are. Some of us are always going to be, you know, just, and if you know, and if you remember Kramer from Seinfeld, you know what I mean? Like Seinfeld, like not just the sliding in sideways, like, but like the look of like, you know, like just looking so crazy. I never really cared for that show, but I really loved him, like just for that. Just for the way, I mean, he really did. I think I'm going to go back and like, look, I think I'm going to go back. I think I tried one time actually to find like a compilation of like all his different entrances, you know. And yes, I did hear that he said some very racist, you know, discriminating, like, probably really offensive, things in a stand-up, in one of his stand-up performances. And, but honestly though, was anybody surprised? You know what I mean? Oh my God, that guy? Really? Who knew? I would have thought he had the most filter, you know? Oh my goodness. Oh, anyway. But if that's who you are, and if that's like the entrance that is, you know, works best for you, then God loves you for that, you know. But for me personally, I've tried to really focus more on, giving myself fully to him in prayer, you know, to kneeling in because, you know, I do think that the things, you know, words and, just physical like gestures and the things that may seem somewhat insignificant to us, they really do have a purpose. And I think that kneeling in prayer really does have a very, very important purpose as far as getting us into the proper mindset to, you know, speak before the everlasting mighty Father, you know. So, and I just think he's so amazing. I do. I did have a lot of things that I wanted to talk about, and I knew that I was going to wait too late today. I knew that I was going to, I should have just done this earlier because I really had all day, but guess what? I have 4 days off work after today. I work tonight for 5 hours, which is like nothing. I work from 4 to 9, which is crazy. It's like nothing. But it's fine. I mean, it's like, I'm really, again, I'm just trusting the process. I really am just trusting the process. When I'm working more, I work more. When I'm scheduled less and there's no shifts available, I accept that too. I give, every time I go to work, I really do give it my all, you know. So I feel like if it weren't for these kind of like periods where, you know, maybe my hours are cut back a little bit. I mean, I'm always okay financially at this time. Like I'm, you know, not getting behind. I'm not getting caught up as much as I would like to, but I am getting caught up on rent, and that's a very good feeling. And I'm handling all my financial responsibilities, however small they may be. They are still mine, and I'm very proud of myself for maintaining those, or, you know, handling those, because that's something that I've always struggled with. But you know, I think that it's all working out. Things are exactly the way they're supposed to be right now, because I don't want to get burnt out. If I had too many hours, you know, and it was like, you know, I'm not lazy, but if I put more strain on myself physically or mentally than I have, I might burn out, or I may start to have, you know, it's just, I think that everything is exactly how it should be. And I trust that, you know, I do trust that. I trust that my life is exactly the way it's supposed to be right now, because I know that it is fully in God's hands right now, you know, and that's a very good feeling. And I may kind of be repeating some of the stuff that I said in the video yesterday, because I still haven't decided if I'm going to make that public or not. So either way, if I say it again, it's fine. But I did just want to say that my absence on my channel lately is in no way a reflection of where I am in my sobriety or in my recovery, because I'd made it a point. I've been very adamant before about how this was going to be something that was going to keep me accountable, and that, you know, if I fall off on my YouTube channel, you can pretty much assume that I'm falling off on my recovery, and that is not at all, in no way, shape, or form is that kind of what's going on here. I've just really put a lot of time and prayer and thought into the direction that I want to take this channel, and I still have not figured that out yet. But I know that it's something that's always in the forefront of my mind. I think about this channel all the time, and I pray all the time that it is what it needs to be for the people that it needs to be that for. You know, it's very dear to me. I really, it really is very, this channel, it's just like, it's just very dear to me. And so, you know, but just because I haven't been on here definitely does not mean that I'm falling off in any way. I'm just trying to go about things in a more strategic, you know, kind of methodical way, which is very not really in my nature. But again, I'm just learning who I am a little more every day, that I'm sober and, you know, living life really like this for the first time as an adult. And I mean, and that's really like I am. It's crazy. It's crazy to think that I think after all these years of thinking that I was learning myself or getting to know myself, I really was just getting further and further away from that, because I was running from myself. And having stopped running from myself, I'm really like, wow, I'm so glad that I finally got to know the real me, because there's no reason that I ever should have put forth and sacrificed as much as I did to hide from or run from that person. And if you're out there and you know, on any level, if you know or suspect that you may be running from yourself, or ashamed of who you are, or disconnected, or maybe just you don't know truly at all who you are, I promise you that God created you in a way that there's no way that the authentic, genuine, real, unique you is not someone that the world would truly love and accept and appreciate and value and learn from, and you know, be inspired from. It's that I know for a fact. And that's not because of anything other than the fact that I know the God that created us, the God that created me and you in his image, that he loves us so much, and he puts so much thought and time and intricate design into making us a way that just, it's just so beautiful, you know. And I say that knowing like the most small, tiny little piece of the grand puzzle that is God's love for us. You know, I'm barely even scratched the surface of what that truly means, and the full capacity of that. Like I will never, like Lauren Daigle says, like eternity will almost be enough. You know, like I even in eternity, if you could even wrap your brain around that, I don't know if that's even enough time for me to fully grasp God's love for us. But I do know that the little bit that I've experienced and learned and know firsthand, I know that it's worth trying, you know. And I don't know, and everybody's not like me, but I promise you that the things that I've been convinced, or even just, I mean, it's not like it took a lot. Like I've never in my life been peer pressure. It was like, no, I don't want to try that. I don't want to do that. That might be bad. That might be dangerous. That might be immoral or illegal. Like it did not take a lot of persuasion, if any, you know. I mean, it was kind of just like, wait, what? Actually, I don't care. Here, hand it to me, you know. So whether you're like that or not, I feel like, you know, if there's something that you are going to just be kind of like, I'll try it. What better than, you know, the love of God, because, it really is the only thing that I know for a fact you won't forget everything. So yeah, so I don't want to go much further in it with this, because I feel like I really want to just kind of set this up for the future. I want to, see where this goes. I want your feedback. I want you guys to, you know, let me know. I want to hear from y'all. Whether you are just now, you know, new to my channel, whether you are someone who's been with me from the beginning. And by the way, I love and cherish you guys more than you ever know. I want to know how you're doing. I want to know those of you who share experience with me as far as like recovery and, you know, addiction, and how you're doing. And even if you're not doing well, I would like to know that. Not because I would enjoy it, but because that's what we're here for each other for, and we should never suffer in silence, and definitely not alone. And if you're doing great, then I want to hear that too. If you have something that you would like to get out of this channel, or anything that you can suggest moving forward, I would love to hear that. I'm definitely not someone who is opposed to suggestions or guidance or opinions or anything like that. You know, my virtual comment jar is, you know, always open. And I think I'm just going to leave it with that, because I have just enough time now to go get ready for work, go to work, you know, and just see you guys tomorrow. I will. I think I'm going to see y'all tomorrow. And I really appreciate everybody. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so now. Please like this video. Please share it. And stay tuned, because I really am going to you're going to see my face a lot more. Or at least, yeah, you'll be seeing my face a lot more in the future. All right, guys. Thank you. God bless you. Don't forget, Jesus loves you. And so do I.